This story begins by showing a young man being attacked by a group of ninjas. Shortly after, a fierce battle ensues, with a giant ninja appears and questioning the young man about the purpose of learning martial arts. Unfortunately, all the young man's answers are wrong according to the giant ninja, which leaves the young man in a dilemma, pondering the true meaning of studying martial arts. However, it turns out that the situation was just a dream of a man named Gu Fei, who was a lecturer at Maylene University who teaches martial arts classes. On that day, Gu Fei received news that the martial arts class might be closed because there were only 2 applicants. Therefore, Gu Fei was advised to become a physical education teacher instead. Sometime later, Gu Fei enters the martial arts classroom but finds no students inside. In modern times, martial arts are no longer considered important, as people believe that studying something that cannot make money is pointless. However, Gu Fei, who comes from a martial arts family, continues to strive to preserve the tradition from being forgotten. Shortly after, a student named Ah Fei arrives with a VR gaming device to play together with him. Apparently, Ah Fei also realizes that the martial arts class has no interest, so he agrees to help Gu Fei gather students. This makes Gu Fei happy, hoping that the martial arts class will become lively. After that, Gu Fei agrees to play the game brought by Ah Fei, called Parallel World, where he starts to be verified by the game software, creates an account, and becomes a mage. Gu Fei then enters the game world and is amazed by the lives of the people in the game, who seem busy with their own affairs, feeling very real. After that, he meets Ah Fei, who is also specialized as a player mage. Ah Fei then explains that the first step to leveling up is to fight monsters, including goblins. Therefore, Gu Fei fights the goblins, but he does not expect that his character's body in the game is very weak, and he almost loses a lot of blood. After that, Ah Fei explained that players in the mage position use intelligence to measure attack range. And if the character's level rises, then the character can be invincible. Hearing this, Gu Fei instead randomly added attributes to his character, causing Ah Fei to panic because his actions could damage his own character. Not long after, they witnessed 2 players bullying another player, so Gu Fei immediately confronted the 2 players. Knowing that Gu Fei's level was weak, the 2 players underestimated him. But once the fight began, the 2 players, who were at a much higher level than Gu Fei, ended up losing. At that moment, Ah Fei was amazed by Gu Fei's prowess. Even at a low level, he remained a martial artist, and his martial arts talent could be applied in the gaming world. Shortly after, the 2 players tried to escape, but Gu Fei stopped them because they should apologize for bullying another player. Unexpectedly, the boss of the 2 players was there, with the name Sword Demon from the Elite Guild at level 25. Sword Demon was also a player idolized by Ah Fei. However, this time Sword Demon challenged Gu Fei to a fight. Hearing this, Ah Fei persuaded Gu Fei to abandon his intention because Sword Demon was a tough opponent. However, Gu Fei did not hesitate to accept the challenge from Sword Demon, and during the fight, Gu Fei managed to unveil Sword Demon's mask, revealing his face with scars. Surprisingly, the 2 players ended up insulting their own boss for being ugly. However, Sword Demon was puzzled by Gu Fei's disregard for the scars on his face. In reality, Gu Fei didn't know that the beauty of a character in the game was the main attraction. After that, they resumed their fight, and Sword Demon used assassin skills, making his presence undetectable. This caused Ah Fei to worry about Gu Fei's fate, especially when he saw Gu Fei being attacked by Sword Demon. At that moment, Gu Fei used his inner vision to track Sword Demon's presence. He did this by closing his eyes, allowing him to detect players around him. In the end, Gu Fei easily defeated Sword Demon, who then acknowledged him as the winner of the challenge. The 2 bullying players were furious at their boss's defeat, while Gu Fei returned the dagger Sword Demon had received. The dagger was a common weapon in the game, which could evolve according to the level and skills of each character. This surprised both Sword Demon and Ah Fei, where Ah Fei explained that he didn't need to return the defeated player's weapon. However, Gu Fei explained that taking someone else's belongings wasn't right, and his words impressed Sword Demon greatly. Shortly after, Gu Fei's victory as a low-level player spread throughout the gaming world. Other players were surprised and curious about Gu Fei's identity. Even the game's producer named Xin Su was astonished as a low-ranking player defeated high-level ones. However, when Xin Su saw Gu Fei's battle statistics, he knew that Gu Fei hadn't cheated, so there was nothing to worry about. Meanwhile, Gu Fei and Ah Fei continued to level up by fighting monsters. After understanding the strength system of their characters, Gu Fei proudly declared himself as the melee mage. On the other hand, several elite players, including Sword Demon, were seen carrying out a mission to kill bandit monsters. They were confident they could complete this challenging mission, but they were still short of mage players. Upon hearing this, Sword Demon admitted that he had a potential mage player candidate, so the task of finding a mage player was entrusted to him. Meanwhile, Gu Fei continued to fight hordes of monsters and monster bosses to level up. Despite being surrounded, Gu Fei successfully completed his task, reaching level 30. Shortly after, Gu Fei sensed Sword Demon's presence and asked him to show himself. Sword Demon suddenly appeared and killed one of the monsters nearby. At that moment, Sword Demon once again marveled at Gu Fei's swordsmanship technique, and he also gave Sword Demon a lesson on sword skills. After the lesson, Sword Demon felt amazed because all the movements used by Gu Fei were not from the gaming world. Upon hearing this, Gu Fei explained that it was martial arts swordsmanship. Shortly after, a girl named Sibei appeared, pretending to be injured. Sword Demon then helped Sibei escape from the pursuing monsters. However, as he gazed at Sibei, Sword Demon became distracted, allowing her to steal his valuable dagger and escape. Realizing that Sibei was a thief, Gu Fei quickly told Sword Demon and ran after her. When he caught her, Gu Fei asked Sibei to give back the dagger, but she tried to make a deal to get her wounds treated first. Gu Fei carried Sibei and took her to the place where she could get automatic treatment. At that moment, Gu Fei's rough attitude towards Sibei made other players notice. However, Sibei broke her promise to keep the stolen dagger safe. Gu Fei kept pressuring Sibei, making her feel trapped. Suddenly, one of Sibei's victims showed up and asked for his ring back. Unexpectedly, Sibei pointed at Gu Fei and said he was her boss. Then Sibei ran away quickly when Gu Fei was not paying attention. Shortly after, when Sibei attempted to sell her stolen dagger, her actions were interrupted as Gu Fei and Ah Fei managed to find her. Eventually, Sibei was forced to surrender the dagger belonging to Sword Demon. Initially, Sibei suspected that Gu Fei would demand a reward from Sword Demon, but her assumptions were wrong because Gu Fei instead returned the dagger to Sword Demon for free. Afterward, Sibei got acquainted with Gu Fei and Ah Fei. At that moment, Ah Fei was enchanted by Sibei's beauty and quickly approached her. Meanwhile, Sword Demon invited Gu Fei to join the elite guild and he agreed to the invitation, so he went to the meeting location. Upon entering, Gu Fei was mesmerized by the beauty of the guild leader's face, but he hadn't realized that the beautiful player was actually a man. Afterward, Gu Fei introduced himself to the elite members, and one of the members named Yun Tian immediately tested Gu Fei's ability to evade. However, Gu Fei managed to thwart Yun Tian's attack, leaving him frustrated and needing to be calmed down by another member. Afterward, Sword Demon informed Gu Fei that the guild leader was Hund, and in the game, he was a priest. Hearing that, Gu Fei finally realized that Hund was a man. After that, Hund began explaining that their mission was to kill bandit monsters in the Wulong Cave. In that place, there was a monster named Suatua located on the stone wall inside the Wulong Cave. If Suatua emerged from his habitat, he would blow a whistle to summon bandit monsters from the Wulong Cave, allowing the bandit gang to besiege the players. Therefore, they had to block Suatua before he left his place. After that, Hund assigned a special mission to Gu Fei, where he explained that Suatua couldn't regenerate his body, so Gu Fei had to continuously use the fireball skill to kill the monster. The mission would take place tomorrow around 7 p.m., but Gu Fei suddenly asked about the continuous fireball skill. Upon hearing this, everyone was surprised and Yun Tian also showed his anger towards Gu Fei. However, he suddenly logged out after his house experienced a power outage. After learning about the fireball skill from Sword Demon, Gu Fei reassured them that he would learn everything about being a mage. After Gu Fei left, Hund expressed doubts about Gu Fei's abilities, as he was a mage who didn't understand the basics of his own character. Hund hoped that Sword Demon hadn't made a mistake in choosing a mage player. However, Sword Demon confirmed that he was confident in Gu Fei's strength. Not long after, Gu Fei along with Hund's guild entered the Wulong Cave and explored it. Shortly after, they fought monsters, and eventually Gu Fei and the others got separated. At that moment, the quest guide asked Gu Fei to hold on while he sought reinforcements, but he took action and managed to defeat the enemies. After obtaining the required item, Gu Fei placed it on the cave wall. Suddenly, the secret door opened, leading to an underground location, and Gu Fei immediately shouted for Suo Tuo to come out. At the same time, Suo Tuo appeared, and a fierce battle ensued between them. During the battle, Suo Tuo blew the whistle and summoning a horde of bandit monsters. On the other side, Hund and the others were overwhelmed by the attack of monsters. Meanwhile, Gu Fei remembered Hund's message that Suo Tuo must be attacked using the fireball skill. After that, Gu Fei immediately took action by casting fireball continuously, which resulted in Suo Tuo Persit. At the same time, the bandit monsters attacking Hund and the others also disappeared. After his victory, Gu Fei received the mission badge. Additionally, he was asked to participate in a secret quest to protect the village from werewolf attacks. Shortly after, Hund and his team arrived and were astonished because Gu Fei could defeat Suo Tuo alone. Afterward, Gu Fei evenly distributed his rewards, making Hund, Yun Tian, and the others happy. Meanwhile, in the real world, the developers of the parallel world game discussed the unusual game situation due to Gu Fei's presence. Theoretically, at his current level, Gu Fei shouldn't be able to easily defeat Suo Tuo, but the reality was different. With his current level, Gu Fei could conquer Suo Tuo, and this was something the developers wanted to investigate. Back in the game world, two women named Qiyu and Li were seen chatting. Shortly after, they were approached by some suspicious players, where one of them suddenly attacked Li until she had to log out. At that moment, Qiyu noticed the emblem of the attacker's badge and realized they were from a guild called Crossing 4C. Before eliminating Qiyu, the attacker reminded her that his name was No Smile. On the other hand, Gu Fei was busy selecting items, where Sibei suddenly appeared and greeted him, but Gu Fei was blunt. So, Sibei approached Gu Fei to persuade him to join her guild called Rabbit. However, Sibei pleaded with Gu Fei too intensely, making him increasingly uncomfortable, so he firmly declined her invitation. Despite this, Sibei didn't give up and asked Gu Fei to replace her, as the fate of the Rabbit Guild was in jeopardy due to a lack of members. After that, he had to become a member to make sure that the Rabbit Guild would not be disbanded because it met the requirements. After Gu Fei was registered as a member, Sibei hurriedly invited him to the guild headquarters. Gu Fei then stated that his membership was just a formality, so he didn't need to be taken to the headquarters. However, Sibei explained that Gu Fei had already become a member and was part of the family. When Gu Fei entered the Rabbit headquarters, he was surprised because the guild consisted of female players. Coincidentally, the guild leader was Qiyu. At that moment, it could be seen that Gu Fei's presence was not well received by the other members. Although Qiyu had explained the reason for Gu Fei's joining, one of her friends named Asi immediately attacked him. However, Gu Fei could always read Asi's movements, even though she was in disguise. Eventually, Gu Fei managed to defeat Asi, but she continued to fight, forcing Gu Fei to incapacitate her. However, the attacks didn't stop there because Li also tried to attack Gu Fei, but he managed to fend her off. Li was surprised by Gu Fei's strength, but his presence was still not accepted, so Gu Fei chose to leave. After that, Qiyu explained to the other members that Gu Fei was different from No Smile because he wasn't affected by Sibei's charm. Hearing this, the other players were surprised because Sibei was a player with a high-level charm skill. Not long after, Qiyu went to the elite guild to request their assistance. She explained that Rabbit Guild had a problem with No Smile, where No Smile had deceived more than 10 people simultaneously. Additionally, No Smile also revealed the identities of guild members in the game community. Initially, Qiyu tried to advise No Smile, but he instigated other players to reveal her identity, which resulted in Qiyu to delete her account and stop playing the game. Not only that, but No Smile also claimed that he was deceived and twisted the facts, then leaked everything about Qiyu. Even though Qiyu no longer seeks revenge, it is No Smile who is now hunting her. After hearing this, Hunt stated that they were willing to address the issue. However, if any members of the elite guild were injured, their cooperation would be terminated, and Qiyu agreed to this condition. During that discussion, Qiyu also inquired about the mage player in Hunt's guild. However, he refused to disclose Gu Fei's identity. Meanwhile, Gu Fei was seen in the item sales room when he was approached by a mysterious character named Mortal. At that moment, Mortal suggested high-level weapons to Gu Fei. However, Gu Fei chose a weapon with a much lower level than what Mortal offered, which surprising him. Afterward, Gu Fei and Mortal returned to the gathering place with the other members, where Hun then explained their guild's mission this time, which was to prevent the player named No Smile from disturbing the Rabbit Guild members anymore. To minimize risk, Hun asked all members to wear masks so their faces wouldn't be recognized by the target. At the same time, the developers were preparing to update the game settings to bridge the gap between new and old players and prevent anyone from disrupting the game balance. Returning to the game world, where Hun and his team were in the field observing No Smile and his gang. After that, they launched an ambush, causing each of No Smile's friends to disappear one by one. Realizing the threat, No Smile immediately used his dagger and entered disguise mode. However, Gu Fei managed to track his whereabouts, rendering him helpless. Before dealing with him, Hun warned No Smile not to disturb the Rabbit Guild again. After that, Hun and his friends hoped that when No Smile logged back in, he would feel deterred. On the other hand, seeing Gu Fei's prowess in detecting disguise mode prompted Yun Tian and the others to immediately remove his mask to confirm his identity, and indeed, it was Gu Fei. At that moment, he explained that he relied solely on intuition to track disguise mode. Gu Fei also explained that this ability had existed since ancient times, as he hailed from a lineage of martial artists. However, his friends were skeptical because martial arts were no longer commonly practiced in modern Chinese society, relegated to legend in movies. To prove his point, Gu Fei demonstrated some martial arts moves, but the members ignored him. Not long after, Yun Tian received news that No Smile had logged back in and showed no signs of remorse. In fact, No Smile sought help from another guild, and they were forced to deal with No Smile once again. Shortly after, No Smile was seen attacking Qi Yu and her friends, prompting Qi Yu to warn her other members not to return to the headquarters. After that, Gu Fei rushed to confront No Smile, but he forgot to wear his mask, limiting his ability to use his skills freely. From a distance, Hun and the team continued to observe Gu Fei's movements and those of the enemy. Suddenly, Gu Fei managed to steal No Smile's dagger and demanded that he release Qi Yu and the Rabbit Guild in exchange for it. No Smile then complied with Gu Fei's demand, but Sibei suddenly appeared and urged Gu Fei to escape. Upon seeing this, No Smile panicked because his dagger was still in Gu Fei's possession, so he ordered his members to search for him. At the same time, Gu Fei and Sibei conversed on a rooftop, where she recounted how No Smile was deeply obsessed with her, which she exploited to exact revenge on him. Eventually, No Smile fell for her deception and was subsequently bullied in the game's chat group. However, No Smile mistakenly believed that Qi Yu was behind Sibei's actions, thus persistently disturbing her. Upon learning this, Gu Fei immediately bid farewell, intending to teach No Smile, who enjoyed attacking women, a lesson. After successfully locating No Smile, Gu Fei promptly launched his action, embarrassing him and repeatedly reducing his level. As a result, No Smile became the subject of ridicule among the players. Meanwhile, Qi Yu met with the leader of Crossing 4C, the guild to which No Smile belonged. At that moment, Hun accompanied her as she attempted to negotiate. At Hun's suggestion, Qi Yu then returned No Smile's dagger to the guild leader and asked the guild leader to test No Smile's loyalty using the dagger. Qi Yu was confident that No Smile would choose to leave the guild for the sake of the dagger. Qi Yu also warned that if Crossing 4C continued to cover up No Smile's mistakes, Rabbit Guild would sever ties with them. After stating this, Qi Yu felt relieved, and Hun believed that this approach would effectively deter No Smile. Shortly after, the guild leader approached No Smile and informed him that he could retrieve his dagger but must leave Crossing 4C. Apparently, Qi Yu's statement proved true, as No Smile chose not to remain in the guild, all for his precious dagger. That made the guild leader disappointed, and he promptly expelled No Smile from the guild. Upon realizing he was no longer a guild member, No Smile panicked. Even when reapplying, his requests were consistently rejected. Now, with no guild to shield him, No Smile's reputation plummeted further. Not long after, Gu Fei arrived and once again defeated him repeatedly, causing No Smile to collapse. The success of their mission this time brought joy to Hun and his friends. After that, Gu Fei jokingly discussed the division of mission loot, which irritating Hun and Yun Tian. As time passed, Gu Fei's actions spread across social media, and his popularity increased, impacting the reputation of the parallel world game. The next day, as Gu Fei entered the arena, he was surprised to find it bustling with activity. This was due to his popularity in the parallel world game. After that, Gu Fei began martial arts lessons. However, the students were not accustomed to such rigorous training and quickly grew tired. Shortly after, Gu Fei returned to the game world, where he found himself listed as a wanted player with the code 27149. According to Hund and his friends, this would make players and NPCs alike target Gu Fei, where he would lose levels every time he was killed. Hund then reminded Gu Fei to be cautious in his movements. After that, Gu Fei set out to complete the secret mission he had received earlier. Along the way, he met Ah-Si, and coincidentally, their destinations were the same, so they set off together toward Nightlight Village. Upon arriving, Ah-Si asked the flower seller about the address of Adrian, the richest person in the village. After that, the flower seller pointed out Adrian's residence, which was behind the mountain. But when Gu Fei asked, there was no response at all from her. Ah-Si then informed Gu Fei that NPCs would respond if it related to the quest being undertaken. After that, Ah-Si asked Gu Fei to wear something related to the quest. When Gu Fei put on the mission badge, the atmosphere of the village changed, and he was immediately met by Edwin, the village chief, who informed them about the case of the werewolf killing their villagers. Afterward, Gu Fei and Ah-Si were taken to the crime scene, where the victim named Mo Fei was brutally murdered. Then, accompanied by Ah-Si, Gu Fei began investigating. At that moment, Ah-Si realized that Adrian as their mission target was also part of Gu Fei's quest chain. Meanwhile, Gu Fei began to imagine the events at the crime scene and realized that Mo Fei might have been a werewolf, which made Ah-Si shocked to hear this. After that, Gu Fei dug up Mo Fei's grave, but this action angered the game developers because his actions was not in line with the game's plot and would surely disrupt the balance of parallel world. When examining Mo Fei's coffin, Gu Fei did not find his body. Instead, they found a treasure map. Thanks to this, the chain quest began to unravel, reaching the conclusion that would be the answer to the quest. Unexpectedly, Gu Fei and Ah-Si were attacked by a very powerful werewolf, leading to a fierce battle. But as the sun rose, the werewolf rushed to leave. Afterward, Ah-Si helped Gu Fei read the map they found. After knowing its location, they hurried to the crime scene and saw a werewolf emerging from the mine. But Gu Fei was sure that the monster was not the one attacking them. When the werewolf was gone, Gu Fei and Ah-Si entered and found a lot of gold similar to Adrian's ownership. Upon seeing that, they began to speculate that Adrian had involvement in Mo Fei's case. Shortly after, the werewolf returned to the mine, so Gu Fei and Ah-Si attacked the werewolf. However, rather than fight, the werewolf chose to flee. Afterward, Gu Fei and Ah-Si encountered an NPC character who understood the tragedies within the village. After being threatened by Gu Fei, he revealed the true facts of the village. In the past, the werewolves lived alongside the villagers and never harmed humans. Until one day, an outsider suddenly appeared, bringing suffering to the werewolves as they were forced to mine gold without payment. Because of this, one werewolf named Mo Fei became enraged and challenged the outsider. Unfortunately, he lost the fight and was killed. Among the werewolves, there was a rule of 1 versus 1 in battles. Therefore, during one-on-one fights, they couldn't intervene, leaving Mo Fei without assistance. After learning this, Gu Fei knew who the culprit was, especially since werewolves usually left distinctive scars, unlike humans who could heal. Based on this, Gu Fei suspected that Mo Fei's killer was a human with the ability to transform into a werewolf, so they went to Adrian's location. In the end, they discovered that Adrian was the outsider. Once his actions were exposed, Adrian no longer denied it, and a fierce battle ensued. Gu Fei then asked Ah-Si to distract Adrian, while he tried to discover the werewolf weakness. After discovering Adrian's weakness, Gu Fei attempted to remove the attribute embedded in his neck. Thanks to this, Adrian returned to human form and died. Finally, the mission was completed, and Edwin thanked Gu Fei for his help. Afterward, Gu Fei intended to level up and asked Ah-Si for a suitable location. A tear being hunted by many people, so he needed a quiet area with few players. Upon hearing this, Ah-Si suggested Gu Fei to visit Moon Lake City. In the real world, after finishing playing the game, Gu Fei returned to the hall and was surprised to find many of his students missing, after some of them couldn't handle the martial arts training. Back in the game world, Gu Fei was in Moon Lake City. At that moment, he found that the area was full of conflict because the large guilds acted unfairly. Also, the crime rates were high, and Gu Fei even became a target for robbery, but he was able to fight off the attackers. Seeing Gu Fei's martial arts skills, one of the robbers named Xavier admired him. However, his attitude got him kicked out of the team. Shortly after, Gu Fei visited the Trade Council and chose a mission to kill players with high player kill scores to reduce his own high PK score and remove his wanted status. Apparently, PK is a score given to players who have killed other players. After that, Gu Fei went to a bar where his target named Inu, a player with a high PK score in the city, was located. At that moment, other players were surprised by Gu Fei's actions. Shortly after, Xavier arrived and informed Gu Fei that he had killed the leader of the notorious and vengeful Gon Guild. Not long after, Gu Fei was ambushed by a female player, but he managed to catch her. The female player was Xu Wei, and she wanted Gu Fei's help. At first, he refused, but when he found out the target was related to Inu, he agreed to help. Sometime later, they spotted Mengma, who was Inu's lover, patrolling with her group. To verify Mengma's group strength, Gu Fei sent Xu Wei into the arena, which resulting in an unbalanced fight where Xu Wei was nearly killed. Gu Fei then promptly rescued her and intended to deplete Mengma's healing skill so she couldn't heal her members anymore. In the end, Mengma couldn't use healing, rendering her group powerless until she vanished. Sometime later, Mengma, who had risen from death, learned that Gu Fei was 27149. At the same time, Gu Fei was approached by the guild leader of Not Thurville named Zhu Mong, who also held a grudge against Inu. However, Gu Fei disregarded Zhu Mong because he didn't trust him. Shortly after, Gu Fei wanted to level up without being hunted, so he sought advice from Xavier, who took him to Shadowfell. After learning the location, Mengma quickly went to Shadowfell. On the other hand, Hund received news from Gu Fei about the situation in Moon Lake. Therefore, Hund and his friends prepared to head to Moon Lake City to assist him. Meanwhile, Mengma was frustrated why Gu Fei could be in Shadowfell when even she and her members struggled to face the inhabitants of Shadowfell. At that moment, Mengma decided to wait for Gu Fei to come out of Shadowfell. However, after waiting for hours, Gu Fei didn't appear, so she instructed her subordinates to go home, as she would guard there alone. While Mengma was alone, Zhu Mong suddenly attacked her, but Hund came to help and drove Zhu Mong away. After that, Mengma thanked Hund for his help. At that moment, Hund realized she was the player Gu Fei had mentioned after hearing her story. To protect Gu Fei, Hund pretended to have the same enemy as Mengma. So, Hund suggested a plan to defeat Gu Fei together. Upon seeing Hund's behavior when tricking women, Yun Tian and his friends laughed. Eventually, Mengma believed and decided to leave Shadowfell to spread the word to the Moon Lake City. On the other hand, Gu Fei trained Xavier in sword-fighting techniques, while Sword Demon collaborated with Zhu Mong, following Hund's advice, because Zhu Mong held a grudge against Yin. The two players then devised their strategy to destroy Mengma's forces, when Gu Fei had already left Shadowfell, as instructed by Hund. At the same time, Mengma was shocked to find her troops defeated. To halt the movements of Sword Demons and Zhu Mong's team, Mengma ordered her subordinates to log off, allowing only the designated team to remain in the game. This tactic surprised Sword Demon's team, most of whom were already offline. Feeling pressured, Sword Demon's team immediately informed Hund that their situation was unfavorable. So, Hund instructed Sword Demon's team to secure the Wizard Academy, as without the wizards, Mengma's team would have to fight them one-on-one. At the same time, Hund also asked Gu Fei to go to the Wizard Academy. On the other hand, Sword Demon's situation and their friends were still in difficulty because Mengma's members had stealth assassination skills. Fortunately, Hund and his friends arrived just in time. However, the enemy had the King's Sword and Mengma's healing skills, which strengthened their defense, causing Hund and his friends to also struggle against the enemy. Shortly after, Xavier's conspicuous presence halted the tension for a moment, but he experienced an embarrassing moment, so the match resumed. When Hund was almost ambushed, Gu Fei finally arrived to execute the opponent. After that, Gu Fei's battle against the enemy intensified. By chance, the enemy's PK value exceeded Gu Fei's bounty, allowing him to use magic from his sword, directing it towards Yin Yu and his group. This inflicted significant damage on Yin Yu's team. However, Yin Yu believed that Gu Fei's divine skill technique couldn't be used repeatedly. Therefore, he asked his men not to flee. However, Yin Yu was mistaken because Gu Fei's moves could be used limitlessly. After seeing this, Mortal was extremely upset about Gu Fei's figure, which made the users of the moves violate the game's rule. On the other hand, Mengma sacrificed herself to save Xin Yu, but he was still died. After dealing with the Gone Guild, Gu Fei hunted down his mission target with a PK value matching his bounty. Thanks to this, his wanted status was cleared, and he was free from the hunted list. Not long after, Zhu Meng met with Sword Demon and his friends to bid farewell. Meanwhile, Gu Fei was approached by Xu Wei, who asked him to be her teacher. Seeing Xu Wei's enthusiasm, Gu Fei couldn't bring himself to refuse, and Xavier also wanted to be his disciple. When they arrived at the meeting location, Yun Tian and his friends were impressed by Xu Wei's cuteness. According to Hund, Gu Fei always accepts good things. Upon reaching the headquarters, Hund's team discussed the seasonal competition. And to strengthen their abilities, Yun Tian and his friends focused on leveling up. They were so serious that they forgot the time. So only Hund and Gu Fei went to the seasonal competition. When Hund arrived, he checked the situation. Suddenly, someone targeted Hund, but their attack was stopped by Gu Fei. After that, the defeat of the player marked a victory for their team. Back at headquarters, Yun Tian and his friends chatted with Hund. On that occasion, Hund asked them to treat him to expensive drinks because they skipped the competition. Reluctantly, the guild members complied with their leader request. Meanwhile, Gu Fei accompanied Asi and the gang to face their opponents. Because they were mostly female players, the enemies underestimated them. But once Asi and Gu Fei started attacking, the enemies panicked, and the intense battle against the enemy guild was won by the Rabbit Guild. Unexpectedly, Ah Fei became part of the enemy guild, so Gu Fei brought him before the Rabbit Guild. At that moment, Ah Fei took the opportunity to get acquainted with the female players by sharing personal information about Gu Fei. After that victory, the Rabbit Guild entered the top 16, so Gu Fei accompanied the Rabbit Guild member for leveling. On that occasion, Gu Fei used female players as bait for the monsters. Once the monsters gathered, he immediately used his magic to eliminate them. After witnessing this, the members of the Rabbit Guild were even more impressed by him. Later on, Gu Fei accidentally saw Mengma being cornered by two bullies. Despite their past conflicts, Gu Fei helped her out of that situation. Seeing the closeness between Gu Fei and Mengma, Yun Tian teased him. But he explained that he had just happened to encounter Mengma. During that moment, Yun Tian showed the reward from the quest he had completed. However, to obtain it, he had to be able to kill a player with a high player kill count. Because of this, Gu Fei became Yun Tian's target. This realization made him aware that he wouldn't be able to complete the mission. However, Gu Fei unexpectedly agreed to be killed by Yun Tian so he could complete his mission. Sometime later, Yun Tian attempted to contact Gu Fei, but the deceased player was in detention, so the rules did not allow him to contact Gu Fei. On the other hand, Mengma tried to send a message to Yin, but the message couldn't be delivered, and she was convinced that Yin was also in detention. Meanwhile, during detention, Gu Fei witnessed Yin recruiting people that's similar to him, so once released, he could form a party. At that moment, Gu Fei wasn't wearing a mask, so Yin didn't recognize him. Therefore, he invited Gu Fei to join. Furthermore, Yin wanted to gain sympathy by slandering Mengma. Upon hearing this, Gu Fei felt disappointed and sorry for Mengma, so he briefly considered revealing his identity to Yin. While Mengma was troubled, she remembered Gu Fei's words mentioning that Yin didn't need her feelings but only sought profit from her. Shortly after, in the second round of the seasonal competition, the elite team versus Claude Herder's team would compete. The leader of Claude Herder's team, named Mudi, was instructing his men to search for the whereabouts of the elite team. Meanwhile, Hund was assigning tasks to his teammates, and Yun Tian and the others were already at the coordinates set by him. However, each member of Hund's team was successfully attacked by the enemy, leaving Yun Tian and the others puzzled because there was a flaw in Hund's strategy. Unbeknownst to them, their deaths were part of the success of Hund's plan. Furthermore, Hund continued to order Gu Fei to obey the rule. At that moment, his task this time was simply to escape from the enemy to the point designated by Hund. However, Mudi already knew Hund's whereabouts, so Gu Fei wanted to help. But Hund forbade him because, in any situation, he had to reach the designated point. Upon hearing this, Gu Fei was confused as to why Hund would act this way. In the end, Hund was defeated by the enemy, and then Mudi's side continued to search for Gu Fei's whereabouts. In his hiding place, Gu Fei remembered Hund's words, where the winner of the game was the one who lived the most. Additionally, Gu Fei was directed to the cemetery location, where the lane was outside the competition range. Ultimately, Gu Fei understood the meaning behind Hun's words because if he was at the cemetery boundary, the opponent still inside would be considered dead. At the same time, Moody also realized Hun's strategy, so he ordered his members to capture Gu Fei as soon as possible. But Gu Fei continued to run out of sight, and eventually, he arrived at the location. Not long after, the game's boundary expired, and the winner was the elite team. Upon returning to the headquarters, Yun Tian and the others protested against Hun's tactics, and Gu Fei continued to agree with him. Seeing that no one understood his intentions, Hun became upset. Not long after, Gu Fei received a message from Yun to go to the rabbit headquarters because their guild was in trouble. Upon hearing this, Gu Fei immediately met with Yun and the others. At that moment, Asi was annoyed because their guild hadn't even competed yet, but they were already considering giving up, especially since other members were feeling uncertain about facing the Drunk Singer Guild. Shortly after, Sibei appeared and joined in to fight against the Drunk Singer Guild. At that moment, Asi said they could use kiting techniques like the elite team did, because victory was a priority for their guild. Upon hearing this, Gu Fei was surprised, as he didn't expect that Asi and the others would use a technique that he didn't agree with. After that, the game began, with the Rabbit Guild in their respective positions. Upon seeing the Drunk Singer Guild line up, the Rabbit Guild was shocked, and one by one, Rabbit members were killed. At that moment, Gu Fei asked all his friends to flee while he confronted the members of the Drunk Singer Guild. However, Asi was worried about his fate, so she instructed her comrades to leave without her, as she would monitor Gu Fei's condition. Meanwhile, Gu Fei suspected that the Drunk Singer Guild was getting support from Hund. Shortly after, Gu Fei's intuition proved correct when he saw Hund among the enemy ranks. Hund then gave the signal to the Drunk Singer Guild members to attack Gu Fei. Apparently, Hund was even willing to be used as bait as long as his strategy succeeded. Gu Fei then freed himself from Hund's trap and sought a way to escape the ambush. However, Asi suddenly appeared with a teleportation scroll, rescuing both herself and Gu Fei from the trap. Although Hund had died, he had left behind a final strategy against the Rabbit Guild without him. Shortly after, Gu Fei had a plan to defeat Hund's strategy, and each member of the Rabbit Guild followed his instructions. Following Gu Fei's instructions, Xavier threw Gu Fei away from their position. Although Yun and the others ultimately died, they had no regrets. After that, Gu Fei used his trusted weapon to crush the enemies. At the same time, Gu Fei also exited the arena, while Asi remembered his tactic of entrusting the final mission to her, and eventually Rabbit emerged as the winner. After the match, Gu Fei found Hund and told him he knew the strategy Hund had used to pressure Rabbit with the kiting trick. Apparently, Hund wanted to promote the kiting technique, so he chose to use it. This tactic involved sacrificing teammates to let one person move beyond reach, automatically achieving victory. But Gu Fei disagreed with this strategy, so he left in annoyance. At the same time, Yun Tian and the others who saw this did not dare to comment on the argument between Gu Fei and Hund. After that, Gu Fei said he would log out for a while. 6 months later, in the game development department, Yuan was very happy because Gu Fei had not logged in for half a month. Therefore, Yuan went home early, which surprised Xin Su. After that, Xin Su was summoned by his boss to the room. On the other hand, Gu Fei was seen sparring in the arena when his phone rang, bringing the sad news that the martial arts class would be disbanded. At that moment, Xin Su suddenly appeared to meet with Gu Fei, with the intention to persuade him to play the game again. When he visited the arena, Xin Su saw Gu Fei training with Ah Fei. Xin Su then said that Parallel World would broadcast Gu Fei's performance live, hoping that he would agree to play the game again. Moreover, the company was willing to pay his appearance fees. Unfortunately, Gu Fei refused and immediately began practicing swinging his sword. At that moment, Ah Fei explained about Gu Fei's desire to inherit his martial arts skills. Unexpectedly, his words inspired Xin Su, so he explained that in the game, Gu Fei could apply martial arts techniques that would be liked by people. Upon hearing that, Gu Fei finally agreed to do the live broadcast. After returning to the game, Gu Fei met Hund and the others. Although Hund claimed to reject him as a teammate, his heart said otherwise. In fact, the owner of the base closed Hund's alcohol order because Gu Fei had returned, so there was no reason for him to drink excessively. After that, Hund and the others informed them that their opponents in the final would be Yin. Apparently, while Gu Fei rested, Yin had made a lot of progress and he now posed a difficult challenge, requiring a water element mage to support their team's cooperation so they could defeat Yin's team. Gu Fei then agreed to choose the water element, but Mortal suggested that he choose the electric element so that his evil plan against Gu Fei could be realized. While Gu Fei tested his electric abilities, Asi suddenly appeared and handed over a scroll item, which could only be used by an electric mage. The scroll was a teleportation device capable of twisting space, allowing players to appear anywhere. Upon hearing this, Gu Fei was delighted to receive the gift. Sometime later, netizens in Real World were excited because the match in Parallel World would be broadcast live, allowing both virtual and real-world viewers to witness the final match between Hund's team and Yin's team. Shortly after, the host explained that Gu Fei had used Kung Fu to turn a long-range mage into a close-range war god. This was something that had never happened before in the game. Before the match, the Parallel World game showed Gu Fei's martial arts moves, which amazed everyone watching. After showing his martial arts, Gu Fei quickly transformed into his in-game character. At the same time, Mortal grinned because he had already planned his tactics for the battle, hoping to defeat Gu Fei. While Yun Tian and the others became aware of the kiting technique popularized by Hund, apparently to prevent their opponents from bringing many troops, because to counter the kiting technique, a large number is more successful in executing the trick. In the end, the team led by Yin only brought 8 troops. When the elite team was in their respective positions, it wasn't long before Yin and his group appeared in the arena. As they launched their attack, Hund and the others were astonished because Yin's team used shield attributes and thwarted Gu Fei's sword technique. On the other hand, the developers were shocked by the appearance of the shield still in the testing phase. At the same time, Mortal was delighted because Gu Fei's moves could be countered, while Hund was angry with Gu Fei because he had instructed him to choose the water element where the water element could destroy shields. Hund was confused why Gu Fei changed his mind midway and chose the electric element. At that moment, Gu Fei remembered that Mortal had suggested the electric element to him. But Gu Fei, who had already made a mistake, pretended to be ignorant. Fortunately, thanks to the scroll item given by Asi, Gu Fei escaped the enemy's surveillance. Upon seeing this, Mortal became furious because Gu Fei possessed that artifact. After that, the second team battle raged on fiercely because No Smile's presence caused the elite team to lose members. Yun Tian then escorted Hund away from No Smile's pursuit. But No Smile waited for the right moment, and when there was an opportunity, he executed Yun Tian while trying to protect Hund. Upon seeing this, Gu Fei became angry and continued to attack his opponent. Even Gu Fei's actions garnered support from the audience, with many spectators even becoming interested in his martial arts. On the other hand, seeing his friends injured and no player healer available, Yin changed his class using special attributes. Hund was surprised because in the current situation, Yin could still change classes. Moreover, Yin had the Holy Knight class, so even without a healer or priest, he could heal his teammates. Meanwhile, in the development department, Sinsu was puzzled by the advantages held by Yin. From there, he became convinced that all the anomalies that occurred were due to the interference of Mortal. At the same time, Gu Fei hurried towards Hund because he was sure that No Smile would attack him. Meanwhile, Sword Demon and other members were cornered. After that, the battle in the arena became increasingly unfavorable for the elite team, as the opposing group had the upper hand, especially since No Smile managed to reach Hund. Eventually, Hund was willing to sacrifice himself and heal Sword Demon rather than himself. Now, the elite team was left with only 2 people leaving Gu Fei and Sword Demon. After that, Sword Demon read a message from Hund that he had sent before he disappeared. In the message, it was written that he deliberately sacrificed himself to trigger Gu Fei's anger. That way, Gu Fei would surely become stronger. Seeing the current situation, Sword Demon was confident that the opposing team would drag out the time by hiding until the end of the match. To force the enemy out of their hiding place, Gu Fei and Sword Demon tried to provoke No Smile. Feeling his pride being trampled, No Smile disregarded the enemy's tactics, and he also reminded how Yin met a tragic end at the hands of Gu Fei. As a result, both players left their formations and clashed with each other. At that moment, Gu Fei and Sword Demon pretended to be helpless, which made No Smile fell into the trap and ended up knocked out. The match heated up even more, and eventually, Sword Demon was also knocked out. Despite being alone, Gu Fei remained undaunted and smiled, causing his supporters to cheer even louder. Shortly after, Gu Fei managed to corner his opponent, and to prevent the fight from being disrupted, he separated Yin Yu from his team. Unfortunately, when Gu Fei attempted to attack Yin Yu, the cunning mortal disabled Gu Fei's mage skill, rendering him unable to use magic anymore. At that moment, the audience was amazed by the situation, but even without the mage skill, Gu Fei remained strong. Armed only with a kitchen knife and martial arts techniques, he managed to chip away at Yin Yu's health. This triggered admiration and support for Gu Fei. Meanwhile, Mortal finally received a reprimand from the top company leader for disrupting the final match. Back in the game, Gu Fei's use of force was so strong that even his knife broke. But that didn't matter to him because using only his bare hands, he managed to kill Yin Yu and his entire team as well. After that, Gu Fei's victory was met with enthusiastic cheers from his supporters, both in the real world and in the game world. The next day, Gu Fei saw his martial arts studio about to be destroyed. At the same time, Ah Fei approached him to discuss the parallel world game. Gu Fei said he didn't expect that through the game, martial arts promotion could be achieved. For Gu Fei, if someone inherits martial arts, that's enough for him, because the most important thing is that the person enjoys the martial arts. Meanwhile, Mortal continued to feel resentful towards Gu Fei, and the story ended. Moral lesson from the story: never trust a strategy from someone who drinks too much, or you might end up using a kitchen knife to win a sword fight. And never log off too soon, or you might miss the chance to become a martial arts superstar in a virtual world.